Thank you.
No problem. Good afternoon, folks. For those waiting online, we are running a few minutes behind for the start of the meeting. I just wanted you to see that we're almost ready to get there, and I'll be sending you a chat, so do open your chat files. Thank you. Hello, Linda. This is Troy. Let's go ahead and test your mic, please. Go ahead and unmute Dr. Fielding.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Thank you so much.
Okay. I'm going on mute again.
Good afternoon, Board of Health members. This is Troy, your virtual host. Wanted to let you know that we are out of practice mode. We are live, and I will record when you're ready. Dr. Fielding is online. Her mic is good, and we're ready to go.
Good afternoon. I would like to bring the continuation of the meeting that we had, I believe, on Wednesday back to order. First thing I would like to do is start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So the sole item on the agenda today for us to discuss are revisions to the public health order that we had issued.
Do we need certification for today's agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
This is a continuation. The items on this agenda have already been certified by our office as of Wednesday. And since there's nothing new on the agenda, everything still has our office's certification.
Okay. Before I start and I find out as we go, are there any other sort of administrative announcements we need to make?
I do not believe so.
Okay.
This, as you stated, this is a continuation of the meeting, so we may continue where we left off.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. So as I was saying, we are here to consider how we would like to move forward on the public health order that we had issued at one of our earlier meetings. As everyone will recall, the public health order provided for exceptions with respect to masking countywide, and also that also included the Douglas County School District. And it also provided for limitations on non-outbreak quarantine. Of course, an outbreak quarantine being a regulatory defined event is governed by state regulation. The considerations that we discussed in executive session and that we have been discussing publicly are how do we want to react to the judge's order. We have a status conference with the judge on Monday to discuss how we want to move forward. And we have come up with I have come up with a draft public health order that I think will accomplish several ends. First, we preserve most of the public health order. It is still in effect, but it is in effect with the exception that we recognize that Judge Kane has put a stay on the order as it applies to the Douglas County School District. Currently, the order cannot be enforced against the Douglas County School District, either with respect to masking or with respect to quarantining. And so the status quo at this point is that this order is not in effect in the public schools. What I am not, and it was in my mind when I drafted this, and it was on my mind when I drafted this. None of us are unaware that there was an election a couple of weeks ago, and that new school board members were elected. When I drafted this, what I wanted to do was provide the opportunity for us to allow the new school board members to come into office and do so without having to worry about litigation and how they were going to manage litigation against the county. I think that they needed a fresh slate moving forward, and we wanted to provide that to them. What the order also did is it allowed us to sort of cut off legal fees at this point with respect to defending the order. What we want to do and what we plan on doing and what we are going to do, I've spoken with several of the new school board members, is soon after they are sworn in, we would like to have a joint meeting with them and we'd like to discuss what the best path forward is for Douglas County. How do we want to go about ensuring that all Douglas County students in the public schools and have the protections that they should be afforded under state and federal law, including the Americans with Disabilities Act. So with that as a background, I do want to, first thing, I want to walk through the order, and I want to then open it up for discussion with my colleagues on the board. There's whereas clauses, and we've added several new whereas clauses, really reflecting what the Americans with Disabilities Act requires. As everybody's aware, the judge ruled, and the school district brought suit against the Board of Health, claiming a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So in here we lay out the Americans with Disabilities Act. We also lay out what the state of play is with respect to this order. So we lay out that that the judge has put a stay on it, and that we understand that there is a stay, and we understand that it's unenforceable against the school district, but we also note in the whereas clauses that we believe that the school district should look at the order and that they should allow the protections. It's our belief that the protections provided in this order for certain students are important, and they should be provided. But of course, it's a whereas clause, so it's a non-binding it's a non-binding finding, that a statement of belief by the Board of Education or Board of Health. Moving on to the meat of the order is contained in section C2, and what we note in this is the state of play. The state of play is that the order is not in effect currently in Douglas County, and so what we do is we basically we take what the judge has put into effect, which is a stay on the order, and we amend our order to reflect what the judge has already decided. We also note, though, that the Board of Health does recommend that the school board, after review and consideration, adopt provisions addressing the accommodations of this order in a manner consistent with state and federal law. We take out the enforcement of this order against the school district. But this does several things. First, it recognizes the current state of play. Second, it recognizes that we have a new school board coming in, and to run up, frankly, to run up county legal fees between now and when that new school board has the opportunity to make a decision about how they want to move forward on a mask mandate, I don't think is the most productive way for us to spend taxpayer dollars, and I don't think that it's a productive way for us to actually engage with the school district. At the last meeting, I did direct staff to start discussions with the school district as soon as possible. If they haven't already, I'm sure that they're going to do that the beginning of next week, about what their concerns are with the order. Second, I have spoken with school board members, and we are going to, at the earliest possible moment, sit down with them to discuss how we should be moving forward to protect all students in Douglas County from COVID, and make sure that they are, in fact, taking into account all students in any action that they take. So that is the sum of the order. I have tried to explain it to the best of my ability, but I have no doubt there may be some questions or comments, and I will open it up to my colleagues for their questions and comments. Commissioner Teal.
Thank you, sir. When we were presented with the judge's ruling on the temporary restraining order, we received a great deal of counsel to consider actually basically taking this order, wadding it up, and throwing it away in order to pursue something better. I think I give a lot of credit to the president of the board for taking into consideration some of the feelings of the members of the board, though, that there are elements of this order that are based in principle that we wished to continue to carry on. And so the idea of rescinding the order really kind of went away pretty quick. And we started turning our attention to what can we do to modify it? What can we do to take the coaching, take the instruction of Judge Kane, and actually factor it in to our process and into this order. One of the things that came to mind is I found a copy of my U.S. Constitution. And this isn't just the U.S. Constitution. This is actually the Declaration of Independence, too. Every word of the United States Constitution and the Declaration of Independence is right here. But if we were to poll the esteemed members of the esteemed attorneys in the room, I'm sure they could acquaint us with the fact that this is the start, this is the law of the land, but were we to actually line up and bring in every book of the United States Code and the Colorado Code, I believe we would fill up bookshelves that would probably cover most of the back wall. And so we've added to rules, we've added to regulations, we've added to our laws over time. So it begs the question, was this skinny little document a bad start? Or was it just a start? Because this is where everything started over, well, about 250 years ago here in America for our American form of republic. I took another look at the public health order after the TRO came out, and I asked, is this really worth balling up and throwing in the trash, or is this something that we can take the advice of the judge? We can listen to what was brought forward by the plaintiffs, and we can go ahead and integrate it into this current existing order. And I'm really glad we went through that process because I believe we preserved some of our principles. The principles that led to us putting forth this public health order. The idea that, we all still have the ability to choose our own healthcare decisions. We have the ability to choose the healthcare decisions for our children. Understanding and at the same time recognizing our current situation as far as COVID is concerned. So first of all, I'd like to commend my fellow board members for coming together. We had some very interesting discussions, I think, in order to bring forward a public health order that I think will address the current litigation situation and yet still be a valuable order for the people of Douglas County.
Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, Commissioner Teal. Thank you, President Benevento. We were in executive session last Wednesday for quite a while, looking at all the different options that would come if we made various decisions. And what was very important to me were the number of daycare parents who had reached out to us since we put this order in place, who felt that forcing their 2- and 3-year-olds to wear a mask in daycare was very detrimental to them. And while being very concerned about having to pay legal fees, it's also very important that we give parents the ability to be parents and take care of their children. And that's what I really like about this order that President Benevento and the other legal team have worked together so carefully to craft. Because what it does is it allows the parents who send their children to private schools and daycare centers and other private businesses the ability to honor exemption letters from parents when the mask is detrimental and provides a negative impact to their child. And so I am very much in favor of this because what this order does in 2C is recognizes Judge Kane's order that involves the Douglas County Public Schools, and the new school board members will join the other remaining 3 school board members, and we are looking forward to having discussions with them about how we can work together to ensure that parents have the ability to make physical and mental health care decisions for their children. So President Benevento, thank you for all the work you've put into this order.
Councilman Bracken.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I won't
won't echo what's been said, but I will. I would like to thank Mr. Pratt and his legal team and for all the time over the last, last Wednesday certainly, but very thoughtful and a lot of time and energy went into this and in serious consideration concerning the judge's comments and I'm really proud of how we've reviewed, analyzed, and reacted to the FO, what is it? TRO, excuse me. I was thinking temporary restraining order. So I won't recap. Nicely done. And thank you everybody for your time and hard work on this. And those are my comments.
Thank you. So what I'd like to do now is open it up for public comment first. Let me start in the room. And, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Linda's on the phone.
Pardon me?
Linda's on.
Oh, goodness, thank you very much. I apologize, Dr. Fielding. Do you have anything you would like to add?
I apologize that I am not present in person. But what I want to say is that I want everyone to know that we have done a lot of serious work on this, and particularly the exemptions, because I think it is only fair that if parents can say that my child requires a mask, that parents can say that my child does not. We have to be fair and even-handed to everybody, and this has been a tremendous amount of man-hours to try to do that and to try to preserve local control in Douglas County. And so I do want to thank the other board members and the staff here and our legal team, who I think have crafted something which we should all support. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, and I apologize again. Now, let me move on. Are there any public comment in the room? Yes, sir. If you just state your name and the town that you live in, I'd appreciate it.
Robert Marshall, I'm from Highlands Ranch. I was just going to call in today, but I got hold of some information that was kind of disturbing, and hopefully we'll be able to have the time to get that final report. So after the hearing, we hired 3 law firms that have 14 billing attorneys from $350 to $760 an hour. 14 billing attorneys. It's nice that Greenberg gave you all a discount, but still, that's unbelievable. And 3 from out of state. 5 federal courts, 5 have all ruled against this exact kind of order, and yet you all just, let's see if we can finagle it and not rescind it. 5 courts, it's 5-0. There hasn't been a single, Texas was just 2 days ago. And it's not just a bunch of liberal judges, as someone pointed out. 2 of them were appointed by George W. Bush, and the Texas judge isn't exactly a liberal. There's not going to be a new administrative record to go to trial on. The judge isn't going to look at any new stuff you have, and the situation's gotten worse. They're going to ask, what did you know at the time you put forward that order? It's not going to change. Now, the issues that got my attention and concern was one of your contracts was with George Brockler, that Maven, for $400 an hour. He has a potential conflict of interest because he's suing the Tri-County Health Department for parents to try and get rid of their ability to enforce mask mandates. I mean, did they disclose that? Did he disclose it? I don't know, but I certainly can see the potential conflict there where he has 2 clients that might want to do things differently at some point, even if they're together at this point. And those contracts were signed with Greenberg on 8 November, and then the one with Maven at 10 November. At the same time, you're telling the court that you're looking at possibly rescinding it, and you've signed contracts saying, oh, we're going to fight it, and we're hiring Greenberg to rewrite one. I don't see that as being very good faith with the court. And then finally, Maven. Gwen Benevento, that's her law firm. And yet, Mr. Benevento, you're sitting there saying you wrote this new entire public health order. I mean, is that not a direct financial conflict of interest when there's a
It's not.
It's not?
No.
Can you explain why then when I finish the comments?
Happy to, because my wife's not working on this matter, nor does she benefit from the firm as a whole. She only collects the money that she bills, and she's been walled off from this matter. So, in fact, you're wrong.
Well, don't you think that should have been something disclosed because it is an appearance of impropriety?
It has been disclosed. I did disclose it to all the board members, and I disclosed it to county attorney.
Was it disclosed publicly?
I don't know if it was or
Yeah, I
wasn't,
don't
but it
think
was,
it
it was in
was,
fact
sir.
disclosed.
I don't think it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, you took, about 10 seconds, but again, these are kind of questions that are really concerning. They're really concerning about how you're viewing this litigation. So I ask you to reconsider and rescind. You haven't even talked about talking to the parents, only the Douglas County, not the plaintiff parents who are the ones who brought the original suit.
Thank you. Are there any other comments in the room?
Hey, James Poplowski, Parker, Colorado.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you guys. Can parents opt out of car seats? Is that something we can do? My kids hate car seats. Can they opt out of them? Probably not. Why? Probably safety, public health, right? 38,000 people die annually from car accidents across the United States. If you don't want to die, stay home, I guess. But how many people died from COVID? A lot more. As Commissioner Teal indicated, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, obviously in your Constitution. We can't have liberty if we don't have life. And if you rewind back to when we were colonies, excuse me, when you rewind back to when we were colonies, we were actually quoted as fever-ridden swamps. And so if the government didn't step in and issue public health orders, masking, quarantine, et cetera, we probably wouldn't be a country here today. Do I have the ability to choose fire department, police services, state trooper? Absolutely not. I pay because I bettered the community, and that's what we're here to do. Having said that, I did want to call out that you guys are the Douglas County Board of Health for all of Douglas County, not just kids. And so as Commissioner Teal indicated at the Get the Facts Town Hall, the severity of sickness in children isn't there. The transmission probably is. Who's that transmission going to? All of us, all of us. And so maybe there's only 31 kids that have been hospitalized in Douglas County since it started, and only just one child that died. But you guys also have responsibility for the parents of these kids too. As Mr. Cortez pointed out, 75% of kids went unmasked. I don't know how we saw that when school started. That was also 3 months ago when numbers were low, we were coming in off of summer, and people weren't wearing masks, so they weren't using it. As the court proceedings pointed out, 7% of kids opted out. That is clearly not the majority. And so they had 2 weeks, give or take, to opt out, and they didn't. 7%, that means, rough math, 93% of kids are still wearing masks to protect themselves. I do like the fact that parents can seek proper medical exemptions, not just writing a note, because I believe as Commissioner Thomas indicated, we care about the whole child. And so rather than letting parents dictate mental health or physical aspects, they reach out to caring medical professionals that actually have to deal with COVID patients. Lastly, my wife works at a private preschool, so she does mask up, as does my youngest son that also goes there. So I guess the question I would have is, we'll continue to send them to school masked up, but are we protecting those families? It doesn't sound like it. And lastly, I know the I'm running out of time, but the COVID-19 data that was presented went to executive session. I think I asked Mr. Pratt, how do we see those? How do we see that data? Historically, we've gone to Tri-County for that. With everything going on, who's going to present that data, or how do we see that? Is that something you guys could answer? That'd be great. That's it.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Commissioner, or we'll finish up comments and then we'll get to that last question. Yeah, Carl.
Carl Bierenbach, Centennial. Everything we do involves risk, whether it's driving to the grocery store, kids playing baseball, climbing 14ers, skydiving, there is risk involved. When it comes to issues of public health, it is this board's responsibility to assess a public health threat and decide, based on the level of risk, what the proper response should be. You did just that on October 8th when you issued the order allowing parents to obtain health-based exemptions to universal masking policies. In the order, you noted that the 14-day average daily rate of hospitalizations for school-age children in the Tri-County area has remained below 1 per 100,000 kids per week for the entirety of the pandemic. In the order, you noted that a CDC study of 90,000 students did not find a statistically significant difference in case rates for students between schools with and without mask mandates. In the order, you noted that the death rate for school-age children with COVID is lower than the average yearly rate of death from the flu for children. You took that information, and as the public health authority for Douglas County, you weighed the risks to the students and the benefits associated with allowing parents to obtain health-based exemptions, and you made a policy decision. That was eminently reasonable and well within the purview of this board to make. Furthermore, it was not out of the mainstream or unique. Throughout the world, many authorities have declined to universally mask students. Many states do not have mask mandates, and many school districts in those states don't have mask mandates. Most school districts in Florida either had no mask mandate or allowed parental opt-out this school year when Florida had one of the highest case rates in the country. And by the way, now they have one of the lowest case rates in the country. And finally, many other school districts in Colorado do not have universal masking. To now have a federal judge rule that your risk assessment, which was informed by real-world data and your knowledge of the values of your community, to have a federal judge say that that assessment is invalid and should be replaced by his risk assessment is absurd. What does it say that some parents of kids with asthma were plaintiffs in this case and think that school is too dangerous to enter for their kids, while other parents with asthma want their kids to be unmasked so they can breathe freely? It's a complete opposite, same situation, complete opposite parental viewpoint. It says that masking policy is a judgment call to be made by individuals and public health authorities, not a federal judge in Denver. The CDPHE even agrees, as they have left school masking decisions to local authorities like this board. I implore you, keep fighting, figure a way to get kids out of masks, figure out how to defeat this judicial overreach. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments in the room? Well, you've already, do you have a?
Can I counter to some of those?
No, we're not going to go back and forth. I don't think that's where we want to be heading. Do we have any comments online?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have several comments online. The first person will be Amy Ross. Amy, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Thank you, Board of County Commissioners, for hearing me. I would like to state up front that I request that you, Douglas County Board of County Commissioners, just simply rescind the public health order that you are putting forward, rather than spending that $145,000 that you're allocating to defend it. You have promised that this new Board of Health would not cost one more penny over the next over what it's already costing us to be part of Tri-County Health, and you are basically this move is making you liars. And you know, you have not surveyed the public enough. You have not expanded your search to appease the public. There are lots of people who are living in Douglas County who are not living the life that you promote, that you expect. Or that you promote that people should live when they come to Douglas County. People are living in fear. People are feeling unhealthy and put in danger because of your lack of science-based behind your new Board of Health. Your new Board of Health, we even heard from your a member of your new Board of Health, and she has this. She speaks by just feeling very resentful. You can tell, you can sense it in her voice. There is nothing about what she is projecting or that your Board of Health members project that are based in what is best for the community, and that is the community of Douglas County. So I ask you guys to rescind your order. I think that has been requested of you time and time again, and you seem to be going back to documents about the Constitution, which at this point, there's got to be a stopping point for you guys to actually be living in the moment. And this is a moment for you to have the opportunity to take the challenge and meet your challenge as leaders of our government to do what's right for public. Now, you're getting a lot of people telling you that their parents and that they should have parenting rights. But where is that sentiment when you go into any restaurant anywhere in this country? When you go into a place of business, just like when you go into a school, you have to follow rules. And those rules are set by public health policy. And there are also social norms that you need to follow. Otherwise, people, groups of people, communities get to decide whether you belong in that building or not. So I ask you to rescind this ridiculous order because it is not, it's nothing more than a dog and pony show, and it is wasting my tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize if and speakers in the future just give their name and the town that they live in. We'd appreciate it. The next commenter, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next comment will be from Jessica Kaiser. One moment while I get her unmuted. All right, Jessica, you're live. Go ahead. Yes, we can hear you.
I just want to make sure you can hear me because my computer did something odd. I apologize.
If you would provide your full name and the town that you live in, we'd appreciate it.
Great. My name is Jessica Kaiser, and I live in Parker, Colorado. I provided comment just generally about the litigation at the Wednesday meeting, so I'm going to limit my comment here to 2 questions I have about C2 that is in the this proposed revised health order. My 2 questions are, number 1, does the scope of C2 include Douglas County charter schools? That I'm less, as a member of the public, I'm less familiar with how those schools operate. And so I don't know if the Board of Health views C2 as not being, meaning that the health order is not applicable against Douglas County charter schools. And then my second question goes to the first clause in C2, which is pursuant to the order of the federal, I think it's supposed to be the order of the Federal District Court of Colorado. I'm wondering, my understanding of the litigation is that right now it is at a temporary restraining order stage. And I'm wondering if that lawsuit ultimately gets dismissed at the temporary restraining order stage without a permanent injunction, would the Board of Health still view C2 as being applicable? That's all I have. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And what we'll do is we'll take comments and then we'll respond to questions. Next commenter, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next commenter will be Robin Webb. And Robin, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good deal. Hi, I'm Robin Webb. I live in Highlands Ranch. Mine's going to be short and sweet because I've talked to you guys a lot, but I was one of the parents who stood up to ask you to put this PHO in the first place. I support you, and I think what you're doing is the right thing. Thank you for fighting for our kids. I think the voters spoke very loud and clear about how they feel about this. I just want you to know that you're appreciated, and that's pretty much all I have to say. I can see both sides of this, either taking the path of least resistance and backing out of it or adjusting it. And I think either way, you guys are all doing the right thing, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next commenter, please.
Okay, the next commenter is Tina de los Santos. And Tina, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Good evening. Tina de los Santos, Parker, Colorado. I just wanted to say bravo and thank you so much for standing up for our freedoms and our liberties and our choice-making abilities. At no point should anyone have to be forced to do something against their will. And I just want to commend you all for doing everything that you have done to stand up for our liberty. Would like to see that a medical exemption is not needed. I think parents know their children and they know what is negatively affecting them more so than any medical provider, but I can appreciate the compromise by leaving that in. So bravo, please keep up the good fight. There's more for you than against you. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take the next commenter.
Okay, that will be Miles Cortez. And Miles, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
We can. If you'd provide your name and your town you live in, we'd appreciate it.
Miles Cortez from Centennial. I would just like to point out a couple of things and before I get in, but to the previous commenter, I'd just like to let her know that there is no stopping point for the U.S. Constitution. So there's nothing about living in the moment. The Constitution is the Constitution. And, I find it ironic that a lot of the people that have been calling in over the course of the last several weeks talking about legal fees don't seem to have a concern for the legal fees that are being spent by Douglas County School District. And we've even had plaintiffs call in and complain about legal fees. So they're the ones, directly responsible for the legal fees. And the tax dollars are being spent by the school district as well. And James, the 75% number, by the way, was from the school district in court. That's where the 75% came from. So one of the other callers said that people were living in fear. And I guess I'd like to point out that is irrationally living in fear. So I went back and found in the New England Journal of Medicine from 2016, pediatric deaths from all causes in 2016 totaled 20,360. Of those, 12,000 were injury related, 4,000 were motor vehicle crashes, 3,000 were firearm related, including 1,100 suicides by firearm, 1,800 were from cancer, suffocation was 1,400 with 1,100 suicides there, drowning was 995, drug overdose was 982, congenital anomalies was 980, heart disease was 600, and fire or burns was 340. That's in 1 year. In a year and a half from COVID, pediatric deaths nationwide total about 550, which means 325, 315 per year from COVID. So we are talking about 2,500 suicides per year in the country and 310, 315 COVID deaths for kids under 18. There are all kinds, and going back to Carl's point, there are all kinds of other risks in our society to kids. And we are paying a lot of attention and spending a lot of time wringing our hands over risks associated with COVID, when in reality, for children, the risks associated with COVID are very, very small. And there's 10 other things. It wouldn't even make a list of top 10. There are 10 other things that we should be paying more attention to if we want to be concerned about protecting our kids. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next commenter, please.
Okay, next commenter is initials TK. You are unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. This is Tara Cole. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. If you just provide the town you live in, we'd appreciate it.
Yes, this is Tara Cole. I live in Parker, Colorado. I was just calling in to thank you. I'm always refreshed after hearing from these calls. The common sense from Dr. Linda Fielding about some parents being able to make medical choices for their children, but not others, really struck me. The statement that I wanted to make today was I listened very closely to the court hearing with Judge Kane, and I also paid very close attention to the election results. I've heard one gentleman repeatedly say that it was a massacre in the courtroom, when in fact it was really just one person making a judgment call at that time based on very limited discussion. I think it was a massacre that we had in the election. I think the people have spoken, the people of Douglas County have spoken. The lawyer in that case also repeatedly asked Mr. Benevento if we should defer to the experts. These are the same experts that a year ago didn't even include masking in 10 and under kids in this area, now making them mask during basketball games when they're using gyms that are in the Douglas County School District gyms. These are the same experts that had us wash out all of our groceries last year that now say no need to do that. COVID experts are learning as they go, and you all are the Douglas County experts. So I feel very comfortable with you making health choices for the people that live here, the kids that live here. And I also reflected on that for myself because I have had a very difficult time getting medical exemptions for my kids because of anxiety and health reasons that they have. And I thought, when my child has a problem, I'm the one that knows them. I'm the one that calls the doctor. When we go to the doctor, I tell them what's going on with my child. The doctor, in fact, defers to my parenting in many, many cases. And I think it should be the same in this case. And so I really appreciate you elevating the parents' choices for their child's health care, because I believe we are the experts. So thank you very much for that. That's all.
Thank you. We'll take the next commenter now.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no other online comments at this time.
Thank you. We have an additional commenter in the room. Please, if you just give your name and the city you live in, we'd appreciate it.
Yes, I'm Robert Riley. I live in Holly Hills. In reading number 2 there, it looks to me like, given the way that election came out for the school board, that the likelihood is that the new school board will drop their case against the health department. So in that case, it's likely that their own policy will be that it's the parents' decision to decide whether or not their kids wear masks. That's what those for the Kids First, that was the platform they ran on. And each of them won by more than 10%. That's a pretty good percentage. So to leave that caveat in there where you're excluding your authority, you're not going to have that apply to Douglas County School District. I don't think that's a great idea. I think you ought to, why would you want to do that? In reality, it's probably not going to matter this time, because I think this is going to go away as soon as the school board takes their office. But I don't know that it's such a great idea to start exempting this group or this agency or that agency, right from the get-go. It's going to encourage people who don't like the next order to take you to court on it. And they're going to say, oh, well, look what happened with the school district. They got special treatment. Now, I don't think that's a good idea going forward for the new health board. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I think we are complete with public comment. What I would do is I would turn it to my colleagues and see if they have any additional comment. First, actually, there are a couple of questions that came up, and I would want to address those. They ask about the scope of the revisions to the order and does it apply to charters? It does. Charters are public schools. Our order is, it does what, I think there was a question about the first clause, and does it get the order dismissed? I mean, that's up to the judge. I mean, certainly what I think we will tell him is that our order now complies with his order, and therefore there shouldn't be a controversy any longer. But I don't want to speak for the judge, and so when we have our next status conference with him, that this is a matter that will be discussed. I think I addressed the questions. So I will take further comment from the board members, or I will accept a motion in a second.
Just a couple comments, if I may, Mr. President, before we proceed to a motion. Mr. Marshall, I believe you asked in terms of the information provided to the public health information provided to the board in executive session. I want to address that head on with you. The board received a report from, I might need help from my colleague, from the hospitals organization, North Central
It's the North Central Region All Hazards Region, North Central Region NCR.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. We did receive a report.
Yeah, that was my question.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Poplawski. Thank you so much. So we did receive that report. The information in that report is confidential right now. And I have to respect the confidentiality because it's not our confidentiality. We're not the ones that assigned it. It was assigned by a higher organization, and we've made a commitment to keep that confidentiality in order to receive that information. And we're being provided that information so that it can help shape our decisions here in the county. I want to keep getting that information. I find that information very valuable in responding to the public health crisis here in Douglas County. So I ask for your patience because we are asking about the legality of the nature of the confidentiality, because quite frankly, I want you to have that information too. I want everybody to have that information. But at the same time, it's very valuable for us for gauging public health decisions here in the county. And quite frankly, I don't know, the first 10 years of my life, I was in the military. I finished my military career as an officer. And I made use of confidential information as a military officer during real world missions that we were conducting in the 1990s. Not quite as exciting as the ones that have been conducted over the last 20 years by the kids. But that information has helped shape what we are doing today. And quite frankly, I would hope we would continue to make use of that information to shape public health decisions here in Douglas County moving forward. So I did want to address that concern, sir, and let you know that we're not keeping secrets for the sake of keeping secrets. We are being provided information, and we are being asked to keep that information confidential in order to continue using it. One of the things that one of our individuals who made comment online talked about was representing the minority, this concept of representing the minority. And, part of what the ADA does is it does represent and protect minorities here in America. I don't want to intrude into the purview of Judge Kane, but the reality is there is a very good question here of which minority is being protected and which minority is being forgotten. And one of the things that we've attempted to do, and I think we're going to continue to attempt to do, is to represent the minority that is not represented by the plaintiffs in this case, namely those folks who do believe their health is being infringed upon by having forced mask wearing. Our intent is to protect that minority as well, so that we're not actually in a situation where one minority is being favored over another. When it comes to the questions of legal advice, I gotta tell you, this process has been a shaping process. And I'm gonna keep asking for that legal advice. Much was made about the law firm that has been engaged. Much has been made about engaging Mr. Brockler. Well, the reality is we do need additional assistance, and we do need additional assistance not because we're up here dictating from the top of our heads, but because we are responding to concerned citizens, some of whom we heard from today. And as far as I'm concerned, the legal advice we're getting up until now has been worth it. I assure you I will be working to make sure that legal advice continues to be worth it. I want to address just for a second conflict of interest, specifically in terms of president of our president, Mr. Benevento. Boy, Kevin, this is something we've heard a lot about when we were on the Castle Rock Town Council of what is conflict of interest. And the reality is our chair, our president, Mr. Benevento, did make disclosure of his association of his spouse. Under Colorado law, the association of a spouse with any certain business is actually not a conflict of interest so long as it is announced. So, and then of course, Mr. Benevento has been fully, I believe, forthright with the members of the Board of Health here. So the conflict of interest per Colorado law, actually, there is none. When it comes to Mr. Poplaski, I'm just gonna nudge you just for a second, because when it comes to you know, your concern about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you know, that's from the Declaration of Independence. And the Declaration of Independence is, of course, a legal document that establishes the reasons for us to break from Great Britain. We always need to remember, though, that the law we actually live under is the Constitution. And so when we talk about the Constitution, we always need to remember it's to provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. That's the law we actually live under. I like to keep going back to it in my little miniature book, because the reality is this is what we're supposed to be here doing. Everything else should tie right back to providing for the general welfare, promoting the general welfare, providing for the common defense, and securing the blessings of liberty. It is my hope that actually, you know, listen, we are addressing the common defense. We are addressing how we are responding to this health crisis. And at the same time, we do need to promote the general welfare. So I do think this order provides both. It does provide for the common defense, and it does promote the general welfare. And boy, I hope we are securing the blessings of liberty. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, President Benevento. President Benevento, there are about 4 things I would like to respond to. One of them is that we often hear the argument, if we don't have to wear masks, do we still have to put our kids in car seats? My kid hates a car seat. In 1975, Congress funded a project called FARS, which stands for the Fatality Analysis Reporting System. As a State Patrol officer for many years, I was involved in making sure that every fatal accident that I covered was provided to this group. And every fatal accident in the entire country has been analyzed by this group for now 46 years. And they have absolutely found that children are much more safe when they are restrained in a vehicle. And I can tell you that I personally investigated many accidents with children who died because they were not restrained in their vehicle. So I don't think comparing children being restrained in a vehicle to children wearing a mask in school is the same thing. Okay, I'm talking. I listen to you talk. It's your time to listen to me talk. It is not the same thing. And kids are not required to wear a mask when they go to the grocery store. So I think saying that children wearing a mask in school is the same safety factor as being restrained in a vehicle is apples and bowling balls. The second comment we heard is that the commissioners have said a new health department is not going to cost 1 penny more. There is one commissioner that has said that. The Board of County Commissioners, I don't recall us ever saying that. One of the reasons I asked to be put on the Board of Health is that I have a finance degree and I have an MBA. I have managed large public sector budgets for years. When I was the coroner, I reduced the budget by 1/3 while improving services. I do know how to read a balance sheet and to manage a budget. That is the reason that I asked to be on this Board of Health. I recognize that we are going to be running parallel systems for a while. We are going to have the services that are provided for by the Douglas County Board of Health while we contract with Tri-County Health. But what I can tell you is that this Board of Commissioners is so convinced that we can start a public health department, spend the money we need to have the best public health system in the state of Colorado, that we are going to implement a 1.25 mill levy reduction in property taxes next year, starting in January. That will reduce revenue to the county by $10 million. But we know that we can do both of these. So I am not on record as saying this is not going to cost 1 penny more. I know that this is going to cost more money to get this public health system set up, but in the long run, it is going to save us money and it is going to be a better department. I heard two different people talk about medical exemptions. And it seemed to me that they thought they needed to go to a doctor to get a medical exemption for their child not to wear a mask if they were in a private school or in a daycare. And we have not changed that portion of our order. So a parent can still write that exemption order for either medical or mental health issues. And there was a question about us changing this public health order now. And we know that the judge has asked us, and even if the judge hadn't asked us, we would want to meet with the new school board so that we are walking in concert with each other. That's better for everybody. And so that's why we are going to do this now. That says we are going to honor and have our public health order reflect the words of Judge Kane. So he hears us as this legal process goes on. That we heard what he said, it is reflected in our order. We are going to meet with the new school board once they are sworn in. And there's nothing that says we can't replace this order with language that works in concert with the new school board. I think those are all the notes that I wrote, so thank you for your time, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Councilman Bracken, or Dr. Fielding? Councilman, do you have anything?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Fielding, if you have nothing to add, or do you have anything to add?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Well, we're at the part of the meeting where I will accept a motion and second to move this forward.
Mr. President, I would ask the advice of counsel, the nature of the motion. Off the top of my head, I would say it would be a motion to revise the current Douglas County Public Health Order. Legal advice on the syntax.
I believe that would be correct. I think you could say a motion to revise the public health order as presented here today.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. President, I would make a motion to revise the public health order for Douglas County as presented today.
Is there a second?
I will second that, Mr. President.
Is there any further discussion? Counselor, is there anything else we need to know before we vote?
No, you should be clear to vote.
Okay. In which case, I will call for the ayes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the motion passes. So, thank you all. Now I would entertain, I think, a motion to adjourn at this point is what's in order. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We stand adjourned.
All right, let's see how that goes. James? You'll still be able to get the tri-county. Yeah, okay, cool. So it's awesome. They're just trying to understand. My name's Doug. Awesome, perfect.
All the signatures on.
Yeah, the question is,